Give us more perspective on this. We're being joined by Mr. Joachim Bitterlich, who's joining us live from Berlin. He's a former German ambassador to the NATO military lines and also a former European diplomat and a security advisor to the former Chancellor, Helmut Kohl. And he's joining us live in this broadcast. Now, Mr. Bitterlich, thank you very much indeed, sir, for joining us here on Beyond. Now, let me ask you this question, because this is something that I'm pretty sure a lot of military strategists within Europe are asking about. Increasingly, American support for Ukraine's defense has become more a sort of lip service than anything else. But on the European front, we've heard from the French President Emmanuel Macron, who said that, it is not right to rule out pretty much any option, including that of sending soldiers, boots on the ground to fight against the Russians. But that is not a sentiment that is shared by other European leaders. What is your reading about this growing rift within Europe on how to deal with the Ukrainian question?
I don't think there's a real growing rift. Emmanuel Macron has been talking, let's say, in the sense of what the French call strategic ambiguity. And the whole French military strategy, including that of nuclear, use of nuclear, has always been dominated by this famous phrase of strategic ambiguity. You should be credible, and the other side should never know what you really would do. And in sense, he is a bit be outspoken. For me, I was surprised to speak about ground troops should not be excluded in any way. The sense Macron tried to express is we are all here to defend the Ukraine. Ukraine is more under pressure than 6 months ago. And we Europeans and we, the Western world, have certain difficulties to procure the right armament, the necessary armament to the Ukraine. Look at the example of ammunition as a simple example of it. And therefore he was trying, let's say, to raise a bit the pressure against the Russian side. That's all. For the moment, there's not any question really to send troops. It is not a question of actuality. The question, but is how to reinforce the steps of, first of European defense itself, and second, how to raise the capabilities, the capacities of Europe to help, to assist the Ukraine. And this is a debate which has just begun in Europe. Some weeks ago, the European Commissioner, Thierry Breton, was speaking about a bond, about 100 billion euro, in order to support, let's say, the reconstruction of defense in Europe.
Right.
More, the need of more money, yes, it's true, it's clear. But ways and means to reach this, let's say, it's yet an open debate for the moment. There are other possibilities, for example, that the European Investment Bank should raise part of their investment in favor of defense,
right,
or the national supportive banks could do so. They could reach steadily 100 billion without any problem, in my view. And there's one new area, please. The Europeans lose each year between 300 and 400 billion euro savings from Europe, which are invested in the US, because we have not yet in Europe a real capital market. And therefore, let's call it, these reflections have gone on. And I know certain countries are reluctant towards this, among them my compatriots, the Germans, who have constitutional obstacles in this way. And I think the debate will go on. And
Ambassador Bitterlich, I think you're giving us a classic diplomatic answer. You're saying that it is important to maintain strategic ambiguity in terms of the stance that Europe wants to take against Russia. But the fact is, listening to what Viktor Orban said, he said that this is their war, it is not our war. We are not at war with Russia. This is a statement that's been put out by Viktor Orban. How does Brussels look at a statement like this?
Well, the state of Viktor Orban is not the easiest one within the European Union. He is contested to some extent. But on the other hand, he is reflecting the view of a great majority of European nations, saying clearly it's not NATO which is in war with Russia, it's the Ukraine in war, and we are doing our best to defend the Ukraine. Full stop. And what the Western world in part is fearing that if the Ukrainians have not enough ammunition, they have not enough people, enough soldiers, that could come under growing pressure from the Russian side,
Right.
and could lose even more territory towards the Russians.
All right, we'll have to
There
leave
is
that.
no-
I think we're completely out of time, but I think you've made your point there, Ambassador Bitterlich, where you say that it is important that Europe, of course, follows a policy of strategic ambiguity without letting the Russians, in fact, guess as to what the European response will be. Thank you very much indeed, sir, for joining us from Berlin and getting us that perspective there.
Exactly. Thank you very much.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.